Welcome back. You're still with Perspective, and we're still talking to Philip Kine from Human Rights Watch. Back to the corruption thing. If I know I'm talking if, but
Yeah.
if you had your say, what would you do with KPK? What needs to be improved in that area?
You know, Human Rights Watch, you know, our terms of reference don't, you know, extend to how government agencies can and should work.
No, but let me rephrase it.
Well, no,
where are the weaknesses that you see in KPK?
Here's what I would say. I think this is the most important sort of general, you know, advice that we could give. That is a effective corruption eradication mechanism or agency needs to be absolutely independent. It needs to be fully supported by the government, and it needs to be immune from politicized attacks from any sector. And I think that if you're able to have that combination, then you have the foundation for an agency that can go forth and effectively investigate corruption. It needs to be resourced, but it needs to be well resourced. It needs to be independent, but it also needs to be protected from attack.
But that would imply like no equality before the law, because you would talk about something like not impunity, but more or less better protection for KPK members. Legal protection.
No, I am in no way suggesting that representatives of any government agency, should be above the law.
Right.
It's all should be equal before the law. You know, what I'm saying is that any agency needs to be well resourced. It needs to be empowered to follow through, and it needs to be protected from politicized effect.
How?
Well, again, going back to how do you don't need to sort of reinvent the wheel. You know, there are very effective anti-corruption mechanisms and agencies in places like Hong Kong, in places like Singapore, who have gone through the same transition and have been able to have real, serious impact. Is it easy? No. Is it going to take some time? Yes. But there are examples that Indonesia can learn from in order to get through this.
Talking about corruption, there is also, lately it's become more pronounced, is the retroactive factor. Do you think that's warranted, or should there be a limit, like, for example, not more than 5 years, or then you can drag it? Because, like I said, nobody's clean in Indonesia. Or very few of them.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to say that you should definitely talk to Transparency International or Indonesian Corruption Watch, because they are much better versed in these types of issues. You know, for us, you know, we see the knock-on effects of corruption that create human rights issues of many kinds. You know, not just resource allocation, but it encourages rent-seeking by the security forces, which might make them actively or passively complicit in human rights abuses. So, in terms of the mechanics, there are agencies and individuals who do this 24/7, and I'm afraid I'm not one of them.
There's always a silver lining to anything, and including, like, we have corruption, maybe we have what is the silver lining in Indonesia, for example? Do you see a better awareness or a stronger, like, I don't know, social media or whatever?
You know, if you look at the record, even of the past year, there are things that have happened that are really encouraging in Indonesia. And I'll give you an example. The first thing is that in July of 2014, the Indonesian parliament approved a mental health law, which will address the mental health crisis and help protect the rights of people with mental disabilities. That's huge. The other issue I mentioned is that, you know, President Widodo has specifically gone on the record committing to investigating a specific number of disappearances from 1998. That's huge. The third thing is that over the past year or so, it's become much more permissive to talk about and discuss the massacres of 1965 and 66. A lot of this has come as a result of Joshua Oppenheimer's documentaries, The Act of Killing and The Look of Silence. But, you know, this is opening this Pandora's box of long covered up evils that need to be addressed. And, you know, another key issue that I think is that we need to recognize is that in January of last year, the Indonesian government signed an agreement with Saudi Arabia, which will protect the rights of migrant
Migrants.
workers from Indonesia. So, you know, there are good things, there are encouraging signs. And so that's the message that we want to give. There are encouraging signs. The government can make positive changes,
They
but
should
it takes political will. And that's what we're looking for from President Widodo.
Okay, let's continue this after this break.